Keeping it moving here on Live Bet Saturday. He's Jared Smith. I'm Joe Ceraulo as we take you through the hour number 2 of the program. And for the first time in this edition of Live Bet Saturday, we're going to hit the progressive guest line and welcome in our guy. You hear him on Sirius XM. He's the host of Win Daily, Tony Cutillo. Tony, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, fellas. How you doing? What better day to be here on a Saturday, right?
I love the energy.
It's incredible to have you, man. I'm excited. Hey, look, we know you've got a lot of NFL futures. We want to dive into all of it, but we've got a little time, right? You're kind enough to give us a full half hour of your time. We're going to have you on for a couple segments here. So I want to start with what we were talking about a little bit off air just now during the break. Your Philadelphia Phillies, man. How are you feeling about this ball club right now? Obviously, they just had, the 4 or 5 game losing streak, but now they've got 3 straight in the win column. This is the team I'm high on. This is the team Jared's high on. I think we all have them winning the pennant this year. What are your thoughts, man?
I think we would be devastated if they did not win the pennant this year, right? So, and everybody's worried about the losing streak. Everybody's worried about the ebbs and flows and ups and downs. But here's the thing, man. This is a better team than what you saw last year against Arizona. It's a much more polished team. It's a team who hasn't even had Ranger Suarez for the last month and a half, who's been banking on guys like Tyler Phillips in the rotation. This is a team who everybody was blasting Nick Castellanos, a guy now that's almost giving you just as good as numbers or not better than he's going to have as he finished last year. So they have so many more pieces this year and so much more, I should say, I know Jared said it. He said, great. I'm going to say moxie, a little more moxie about him. And listen, man, the sky's the limit for this team. The only people that will beat this team is the Philadelphia Phillies themselves.
Yeah, the word I used was starch. That's a good word. It's too much starch in some of those Geno's and Pat's cheesesteaks sometimes, but plenty of starch for the Fightins this year. I'm with you, Tony. And again, I think it goes back to teams that had and the Panthers are the perfect example, the Florida Panthers on the hockey world from last year. 2 years ago, I was there the night they lost. They stayed out there and they watched Vegas lift the cup. That changes you emotionally. They've had now 2 years of getting to the World Series and then getting so close to the World Series where they're up 3-2, coming back home to Arizona, and they can't finish the deal. Like, you talk about getting just to the teepee top of the mountaintop and then fall short. I think that puts a fire in you and it toughens you up. I think that's where the Phillies are. Let's talk about your football team because there is a lot of excitement. I'll be honest. I might do a Philly parlay. I might do a Phillies and an Eagles World Series Super Bowl parlay because I think Kellen Moore is going to be the best thing that ever happened to Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. You think both of them are good bets in the futures market? Tell me more about that.
100%, man. You said the golden word, and that's Kellen Moore. Last year was an aberration. Last year, people have to remember, it's not just Kellen Moore, but it's also Vic Fangio. It's 2 veteran guys who command respect, not only in the locker room, but across the entire NFL. I mean, you have guys like Darius Slay doing things he's never done because of Vic Fangio. You have guys like Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown singing a different tune now because of Kellen Moore. I mean, Jared, you mentioned it. You saw what he did in Dallas. You see how dynamic his offense is. They're already been talking about training camp, how much more motion that they're setting in pre-snap conditions. Don't worry about Jason Kelce either. Not to say he's not one of the best, if not the best center of all time, but Cam Jurgens will hold his place enough for this team. And talk about futures, man. Listen, over 22.5 touchdowns through the air for Jalen Hurts. I mean, I think I don't know how that can't be a given. I really don't. Right. And here's why I say this. And everybody's saying, well, he scored 13, 15 touchdowns on the ground. He's not going to score that this year. Jared, you mentioned it. Saquon Barkley didn't pay $30 million for this guy to not take
Give
the
him the
ball.
rock.
Right, exactly. I mean, come on, man. This guy is going to get 300 touches combined at least, and he's going to find that end zone a lot. So, and that just means more through the air for Jalen Hurts. And what about the interesting part about Saquon Barkley is such a dynamic playmaker who's never had the luxury of having an elite-style quarterback, an elite-style offensive line, 2 wide receivers on the end that are going to command attention. Who's going to cover Saquon Barkley? And last thing I'll say, I'm sorry to get long-winded, but a lot of the people that say he's not going to catch the ball a lot, you're not watching training camp. You're definitely not listening to me, because I'm going to tell you right now, they've been working on that play more than any other play in training.
Go watch some Penn State football from about 5 years ago. You tell me Saquon Barkley's not a great receiver. Sorry, Joe. Go ahead. I just had to get that Penn State nugget in.
I was just going to echo that sentiment. I mean, Saquon, look, you know I'm a Penn State fan. You know I'm a Giants fan. I've watched a lot of Saquon, man, and he's as good a receiver as anyone coming out of that backfield. But, Tony, A.J. Brown, a year ago, 106 receptions. Now, you mentioned the addition of Saquon. People might not be, if you're paying attention, you're thinking of this. If you're more of a casual fan, you're not thinking Saquon's probably going to take some receptions away from A.J. Brown this year. But the difference is you need a go-to guy on a deep ball. A.J. is still going to get those 100% of the time. 106 a year ago, the over-under at 87.5. Is that too low? Is that too disrespectful? He had 88 2 years ago, so he's gone over this both years with Philly. Does he go over it for a third?
Oh, 100%. This is one of my favorite locked-in bets for me, because you're going to hear this word a lot in these segments. I say safe, and I don't say that to be generic. I say that because look at his last 2 years. He averages 158 targets, and last year supposedly was a down year. Supposedly was a down year for A.J. Brown. Right. So just think about, he still has Devontae Smith, who signed a big deal. Right. They're both going to get their touches. But here's what people have to remember. Let's not, when you get Saquon Barkley, one of the biggest, advantages in the tight end position in Dallas Goedert is his blocking ability. Dallas Goedert is not going to be much of a receiver this year. He's going to be a blocker. That's why they signed Saquon Barkley. So any kind of scared you are based on the targets or touches for A.J. Brown, don't worry about it. They're going to come off at Dallas Goedert, and they're going to go right to A.J. Brown. So to me, if he doesn't catch 95 to 100 balls this year, I will be absolutely shocked. Oh, and by the way, he never misses games. He's played both games in the last 2 years.
Yeah, he's a specimen, is what he is. Oof. I am working on my fitness and my body. He is goals to look
Not
like
me,
that.
Too many mistakes for me.
Unbelievable. All right, let's go down I-95. Let's talk about Baltimore. Year 2 of Todd Monken. I'm very excited to see what he can do as they now take a step forward. I think it's fair to say their defense will take a step back. Losing McDonald, you lose a couple of other key pieces. I think they're still going to be good defensively, but maybe not historically good like they were last year. That, to me, means more opportunities not only for Zay Flowers, but maybe also for Derrick Henry, who's also in town.
I love Derrick Henry this year. I'm so over. And again, I know a lot of people are going to worry about the age. He's 30 years old, but you just have to watch the past history of a Baltimore Ravens football team. You have to just watch John Harbaugh, who, remember, was the special teams coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, who I covered for many years. This dude loves to run the football. And one of the big emphasis in the offseason and in preseason is, let's not have Lamar the runner as much. Let's have Lamar the passer. Okay. And again, what's going to happen when you have guys like Zay Flowers that can stretch the field? As long as Rashad Bateman can actually stay healthy and stretch the field, and Mark Andrews can stay healthy. Oh, and by the way, if you watch training camp, Isaiah Likely has been playing a really nice role.
I love that kid.
All that means, Jared, you know what that means? More handoffs for Derrick Henry. And who's going to stop Derrick Henry? I mean, this is a very underrated offensive line. And last year, if they would have had that cohesion, everybody got hurt. Gus Bus got hurt. J.K. Dobbins got hurt. Keaton Mitchell gets hurt. Now you have a steady force in Derrick Henry on a team who loves to run the ball. It's just success all over for me with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And with Gus Edwards on the Chargers now, no one's taking those goal line touches away from Derrick Henry. And I agree. I couldn't agree more that they want to make Lamar not necessarily a pocket passer, but, a pass-first guy, which I think last year he really was. And then that'll open up the door for Derrick Henry. I love that call. There's another running back, though, in a new system that you're also pretty high on. What's your outlook for Josh Jacobs?
Oh, man, listen, I'll tell you what, historically, people know me, whether it's on Win Daily or whether on Sirius, I am not a Josh Jacobs guy. I think he's one of those guys who really I never touched. I thought his yards per carry were really low. A lot of that was because of the situation he was in out there with the Raiders. But now he goes over to Green Bay. And I think it's a very interesting situation. A guy like Jordan Love, who for my money is a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year, he's going to continue the evolution of touchdown throws, a very young receiving core. But what that's going to do is They wanted to be more of a running style team, and Aaron Jones couldn't stay healthy enough, and A.J. Dillon was never that guy. So they come in and they get a pounder in Josh Jacobs. Oh, and by the way, people don't understand that Josh Jacobs, very good pass catcher too. So over 950 for the rushing yards on a Green Bay team to score a lot of points. Man, this pick to me, it's easy 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get that number being as low as it is, Tony, especially with the 17th game on the schedule. As long as he stays healthy, I can't imagine Josh Jacobs not going for 1,000 yards this year. I love it. Let's talk more futures, more fantasy football. When we come back on the other side, we've got Tony Cutillo with us. Guys, don't go anywhere. It's Live Bet Saturday.